and welcome to the Renny Show. It's just gone 12 o'clock and Jenny is yet again joining us from somewhere else far-flung. Where is it you're joining us from this week, Jenny?
Good afternoon. It's just afternoon, isn't it? I am up in Doncaster this Wednesday and Thursday doing some work with a client. So I'm sneakily fitting this into my lunch break.
Fantastic. Well, we'll crack on then so that you've still got some time to have some lunch afterwards before your next session. As always, folks, if you're watching, we'd love to have your comments and any questions. And if you're watching on replay, pop us a hashtag replay as well. So let's get stuck in then with the first question. Quite a big one first. So I feel I almost ought to apologise, but I shan't. But so why do you think, Jenny, that many young people these days seem to struggle with self-belief?
Oh, you weren't kidding, were you? Thanks, Rach. I think there are a number of reasons, but a couple that spring to mind initially is that I think schools and children are under tremendous pressure to conform to government standards and things, and I think that there has been a squashing and a decrease in many schools in the creative part of learning. So I think that not everybody is good at, maths or history or English. So I think the focus on that sometimes means that children feel that they're not good enough, or that they're not the same as other people, and therefore something's not great, and therefore that it shrivels it's soul shriveling. It shrivels their self-belief. I think there are many pressures. I think teachers, there's so many pressures, and it's such a complex topic. We could do a whole half an hour on it, but we won't. But I think but also I think that social media, pressures on parenting, complex families, there are so many things. So I think probably in the olden days we used to take self-belief for granted, and I think these days we have to be more focused on being more explicit about it.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and I think it really can depend on the school and the teachers, how happy the teachers are. Teachers do a fantastic job, and I'm biased. My mum was a teacher, but there's so many pressures they're up against, and it does seem to depend which school as to whether the creative subjects are taken more seriously or not. And that's such a shame. It's a bit of a lottery, really, isn't it, for the youngsters? I consider myself very lucky with where my children are. I know perhaps some parents might not feel the same.
And different children develop at different stages, at different rates. And when there's so much pressure on testing, it does put a lot of pressure on children to behave and perform in a particular way, because that's how they're measured. Even if that's not the way that works for them. I used to love exams. I used to find them quite exciting, but I know there are many people. I know, but I quite enjoyed them. But I recognise that there are many, many, many people for whom exams are absolutely not the best way of testing their knowledge and their understanding and their development. So I think we don't always meet people's needs, and that sometimes we use a kind of sledgehammer to crack a nut, and I'm not sure that a lot of our methods have actually had the desired effect either. So I think if children love going to school and they're enjoying what they're doing, then actually things like truancy and people who don't want to go to school for many reasons, probably because they feel unhappy, then I think if we look at it from a different way, then there's an opportunity to improve attendance by making sure that actually children are enjoying what they're doing and they want to come to school.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have to say there are many educational establishments where that sort of thing is very present and is encouraged and really helps the children. So we're not sat here saying that the school system is a nightmare, but I think we both agree that there are many challenges and a lot of pressure put onto schools to perform in terms of stats, and that doesn't always really help the children. So I think that's something really important.
Or the teachers.
No, I mean, some teachers are leaving in their droves, aren't they? Because it can be such a miserable place to be. So yeah. Here's a big shout out for the teachers. We love you. You're doing a cracking job. Keep going. Right then.
And for the children.
Yeah, absolutely. Every single one of them. So your turn to ask me a question, Jenny. What have you got for me?
So my first question was, what's the biggest mistake that you have ever made? Silliest mistake, biggest mistake, silliest. As you can see
on the screen
from my chin.
Yes, we have a silly mistake in residence.
So I made a silly mistake in that I didn't put the top of a travelling mug lid on correctly. I cross-threaded it, and therefore the cup wasn't sealed. So when I tipped it to drink out very hot tea out of it, what happened was that the hot tea came out in an unexpected place and burnt my lip and my chin. So schoolgirl error, very silly mistake, which obviously has very visible consequences.
Oh, bless you. I hope it's getting better.
It is getting better. So I think yes. Silly, really silly. And I was one of those people who was always a bit scathing when they put on the disposable cups from certain takeaway establishment, the contents of this cup may be hot, and you think, well, I hope it's hot. But of course, the consequences of it being very hot can be risky. So I'm less scathing now of the need to
understandable.
Yeah.
Well, I think in terms of silly mistakes, the couple of things that spring to mind are all on a quite similar vein, actually. One of which is that I've actually, you can see on my wrist there, my silly mistake on the oven a few weeks back. I'm so careful about the oven, particularly when cooking around the children and trying to get them to help. So teaching them, trying to get them into good practices about looking after themselves around the oven. And there was me with a great big burn on my wrist. So I felt a bit stupid for that. But I just want to share one. My daughter a few weeks ago, I'd asked her to do me a favour while I had to nip out. And I said, right, when that alarm goes off, if you can just turn the saucepan right down for me, please, so it didn't boil over. And I got back and she'd turned it off, which I guess equates to turning right down, just not quite in the manner I'd hoped. I meant from kind of maximum to minimum. So that, I think, shares a lesson for all of us in communication and how well we actually get the message across for something we intend. Because in my head, it was obvious, and it clearly wasn't in to the rest of the world. So yeah, I think there's something in there today about safety, isn't there?
But also about communicating. So I made a digital story, which is still available if anybody should want to watch it, about when you're very familiar with a process and you're teaching it to somebody else, it can be quite easy to miss steps out because you assume.
So true.
So you assume. So my famous example was helping one of my sons learn to make tea, and I had gone through the process. He'd got a list of things, the steps that he had to do, all of that stuff, and he made the tea and he brought it to me. He was very excited about it, and it was cold. And I said to him, well, how long ago did you boil the kettle? And he got the list out and he said, you didn't say boil the kettle. I said, fill the kettle. because I assumed that he knew, because he'd watched me do it lots of times, that if you fill up the kettle, you then put it on to boil. But I'd missed that step out. So, of course, he hadn't followed that step. So we had to. So it was a great lesson in, when you're familiar with something, you make assumptions that you didn't know you made until somebody tries to do it, or that you communicate. So, we know that turning it down doesn't mean turning it off, but there's no reason why somebody who isn't familiar with that would. So good on her. She was very safe, which is great.
She took the safe option, which I was far happier than any other outcome. So it's all good. It's all good, and it was all safe. Okay, so moving on to my next question for you then, Jenny. Is Pride Month important, and why? Very topical, because obviously we're in Pride Month right now.
Yes, is the short answer, and why I'll tell you in a minute. But I think also it isn't just the month, is it? Pride is important, and we have a lot of days, months, where we use them to particularly focus or raise awareness. But it's really, really important that our support of Pride goes on every day of the year. Why?
Absolutely.
Why it's important is because I feel really emotional and strongly about this, because I want to live in a world where nobody is frightened to be who they really are, and that people can love who they choose, without fear of discrimination, persecution, cruelty, death in some countries. So actually it is as allies, it's really important to, because I haven't experienced a lot of what my friends have. Doesn't mean that I can't support and stand up for them, because nobody should have to go through what many LGBTQ plus have to go through. So I feel it's very important.
Yes, very, very important. And it's one of the reasons, the fact it's important every day, it's one of the reasons that I have on all my social media profiles, in all the headers, one of the bits about what I do, or who I am, if you like, is equality ally, because I just think it's so important that people know that if they connect with me, it's a safe place to, unashamedly be who they are. I can't imagine living a life where I have to question whether or not I can hold my husband's hand as I walk down the street. I don't even have to give it a second thought. And it's just heartbreaking to think that so many people that we know and love do have to think twice about that, just in case someone judges them, someone hurls abuse at them, perish the thought, even gets violent, because some people do. And it's just, I think we've come a really long way, but I think there's a long way still to go. So I think we're definitely in massive agreement, Jenny, aren't we? Pride Month is incredibly important, but it's just as important every day to show up and be an ally, to support the fact that people should be able to be who they want to be.
And as long until every single person in the world. So I guess we'll never be done. Certainly not in our lifetime.
Probably not. No.
But I think, yes, absolutely. So, yes.
Fantastic. Right. Oh, I think we definitely agree on that one. So what's your next question for me, Jenny?
So my next question is, what's the best bargain that you have ever come across? I love a bargain, and I love watching antiques shows and things where people find absolute treasures that nobody knew were treasures, that were lurking in the back of a cupboard, or an antique shop that somebody had missed, diamonds that are diamonds that they thought were paste, those kind of things. So but any bargain really. That's my question for you. Okay. Well, one of the first things that springs to mind for me, and it's not necessarily the most logical or even exciting of options that anyone could think of, so bear with me, but the bike rack that we've got for our car.
So you remember when there was all that issue with the banks owing people money because they'd missold insurances and things when lending money? Well, I was able to make a claim, and so I encouraged friends to do the same. And every time I did, I got a £20 voucher from this organisation. Well, so many of my friends trusted that I'd had a great experience, and they trusted with their details over to have a look at whether they were owed money. And I just received tons of these £20 vouchers, which almost amounted to enough to buy this, is it Thule or Thule, I don't know how you say it, the posh, really good quality bike rack, fit 4 bikes on it to go on the car. And we perhaps had to top it up by, I don't know, 20 or 30 quid. So talk about bargain, because this was hundreds of pounds worth of bike rack. And every time we use that bike rack, I can't help but think to myself what a wonderful bargain it was, and that, would we have had that bike rack had we not had those vouchers? Maybe not. We'd have probably gone for a different one. And it does make me smile every time I have to go and use the bike rack, or what we do as a family. But not the most exciting version of bargains.
Well, do you know? I think it is. I think it is an exciting version, and so mine was, as I mentioned, kind of antique shops and charity shops. Yeah. I once found the most exquisite Amanda Wakely evening gown, which is just exquisite. A very sought after designer, and I don't think they knew what they had, and so it was priced at £10. So I snapped it up very quickly. Because I would never have been able to run to an Amanda Wakely original. I still had the labels in it, never been worn. And so again, like you, every time, I think that's the thing about a bargain, isn't it? Yes. Every time I wear it, I just feel $1 million, because it is the most exquisite dress, and classic, never goes out of date. And the joy of knowing that I owned it, I bought it for £10.
Wonderful. That's just fantastic. I love that.
Yeah. So cost per wear, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. God, practically free. I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So yes. Absolutely beautiful. Available for hire. If anybody wants to borrow it.
Well, if it's available for hire, you could even start making money on it. I mean, it's the possibilities are endless.
Well, yeah. I hadn't thought about charging for it. But, people could borrow it. But anyway, yes, of course, I've missed the commercial making money out of it. That would be a double bargain, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, got another bargain. So people, if you have got some fantastic bargains that you want to share with us, please put them in the comments, because we'd love to know some of the fantastic things that you've come across as well. Not just bike racks and dresses, anything goes. So next question for you then, Jenny. Are you, and well, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, and I'm sure everyone watching will know the answer, but are you glass half full or glass half empty?
No surprise. Firstly, I'm very grateful for the glass.
Yes.
And yes, I do focus on the, on being full, filling up. But I also recognise that actually I have some responsibility for filling that cup and keeping it there.
Yes.
But also recognising that the volume in the cup goes up and down depending on what's happening. So I think being a glass half full person doesn't also mean that I am not, that it isn't about toxic positivity, which is that thing about relentless, always positive in spite of everything. And that people feel that there isn't space to feel other emotions that are less positive. I think for me, what being a glass half full means is that you recognize those emotions, and that actually they have their place, and it's okay not to be okay. It's how we deal with them rather than pretending that they don't exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd definitely put myself in the same bracket as you there, Jenny. No surprises.
No surprise.
No. you know, I'm also a firm believer that you do have to fill your cup up, you know, because we're all human. We all have days where things are more challenging, and sometimes finding that spark of positivity in a situation can be more difficult. But I think it's about making a choice, isn't it? And choosing how you're going to attack the situation, how you're going to react, how you're going to deal with it. And you know, for me, I've always been, I'd say I've always been a quite positive, glass half full or glass full person. But that doesn't mean that we're not human and that every day is always fantastic. You know, I think that's the important thing to say to people is, you know, we're all allowed to have bad days. We don't, nothing is perfect. You know, I don't even get me started on perfection. I mean, in fact, I'm sure I've said we've
That's
both
a whole
said we're going
different
to talk
show.
about that, aren't we?
Yeah.
That's a whole different show.
We are.
But yeah, I do think there's always something positive there if you look for it. Sometimes you just have to look a bit harder, but the more you are practiced in looking for the positives, then I think the easier they are to find. And I would highlight for anyone watching, if you follow Taz Thornton, brilliant. If you don't, then go and follow her, because one thing that's always stayed with me from Taz's teachings is about flipping your negatives. So even when you are in a situation where something isn't going as you might want it to go, you're not having the best day, there is always a way that you can flip that and make it into something positive. So yeah, I would say that's a real important one for me, you know, on a regular basis, to flip your negatives when you're having a bad time.
It's such a helpful practice,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's so good. So yes, shout out for Taz.
Yes, we love Taz. We love you, Taz. Thank you. Yeah. And if I'm just going to put up on the screen very quickly, if you don't follow Taz, then go and see her website, which is currently scrolling along the bottom of the screen, and all her socials are on there, and do connect with her and follow her for more fantastic advice such as flip your negatives. So yeah, there we go. Right, next question then.
Is it mine? Is it my question to you?
Yeah,
it kind of links actually, I think, with I think it kind of links with what we've just been talking about. So my question for you, Rachel, is how do you what are your coping strategies for when you're feeling frustrated? So, you know, when things don't, as we said, things don't always go how you would like them to go. Sometimes the spanner in the works, curved balls, whatever you like to say. So how do you cope when you're feeling completely frustrated?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing to say here is that it's okay to feel frustrated, but as we've already alluded to, it's how you choose to deal with that that's the where the power is, isn't it? And I think there's a couple of really important, so kind of fundamental parts to this for me. So if you're frustrated with something that's going on, it's really important, I think, to consider what you can actually do to control the situation. What elements of that situation that are frustrating you can you actually take some control over? And obviously what goes hand in hand with that is choosing which bits you can't have any impact over, and therefore just letting them go. Because if you can't do anything about it, what's the point expending your energy worrying about something that you can't change? You know, something that I think a lot of people did over the pandemic, just worrying about things that they couldn't change about what was going on. So yeah, the message for me is definitely about controlling what you can and accepting those things that you perhaps just need to let go, and accept that, you know, there will be days where life can be frustrating, but it doesn't have to mean it's going to be a bad day.
Funny enough, I agree with you. And also I think sometimes it's thinking about how you what you understand frustration to be for you, because we all have different personalities, we all have different preferences, and sometimes frustration can be tied up in self-awareness. So you can be frustrated and you think, how did I find myself in this situation? And actually, of course, what you realize is that it's a preference of yours. So being self-aware and understanding why you might behave in the way that you do, that gets you into a situation that you don't want to be in and leads to frustration. Actually, you can do something about, and you can choose whether you change it. So, for example, I was thinking about, some of us can take feedback quite personally.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you take feedback quite personally, then potentially your first response is defense. So so what that means is that you feel frustrated because you're defensive and thinking, how could they possibly say that about me? But also what that does is stop you really listening and being open to receiving that. So the part of the frustration is the lack of self-awareness. So being able to really be open, not taking it personally, but to listen to the facts of the situation and go, do I do that? Oh yes, I think I do.
Yeah, maybe I do.
Actually, I know I do. And so maybe I have a choice about what if I did something differently? What if I tweaked my behavior just a little bit, that might change, that might change how, reduce the amount of frustration I get when I find myself in a situation that I don't want to be in. So
yeah,
so I think there's two chunky pieces of top tips there.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully that's plenty for you all to think about, folks. And don't forget, if you've got some comments or experiences on any of the things that we've talked about, then we'd absolutely love to hear from you and carry on the conversation. But we've whizzed through that today, Jenny, which is probably a good thing, because you need to go off and have some lunch, don't you, before you do your next workshop session. So yes.
Well, of course we'll be seeing each other, won't we, on Sunday?
Yes. Because how could I possibly forget?
For those of you who don't know, Rachel and I are going to see the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks.
Yes.
And again, if you don't know about them, give them a follow. Give them a follow on Spotify.
Yeah, absolutely. Go and check them out. Yeah. Some fantastic music, and because in fact that came, didn't it, from the first ever session we did of this, a curiosity chat in a closed group that we're both in, with Taz Thornton and Asha Clearwater. So thanks to them, and we're looking forward to seeing you there, ladies. We're off to see the Chicks, which is really very exciting. Definitely got getting my voice in good form, ready for that one. Going to be great, and obviously to get to see you face to face.
Rachel and I,
most of the time we see like this, don't we? So
I know we won't be in separate screens in separate parts of the country. we'll be in 4D in the same space, so very excited about that. We will let you know how that goes in our next session, which is in 2 weeks.
Yes, it is in 2 weeks. I don't have the date in front of me. What's the date going to be? So it will be the Wednesday the 12th of July. Goodness me, how are we almost in July? That's crazy. Same time, same place.
I know.
Well, I say same time, same place. We'll be back to the normal time of 12:30 next time.
Well,
but you know what we mean, folks. You know what we mean. So take good care of yourselves till then, Jenny, and enjoy the rest of your facilitation time in Donny. And I shall look forward to seeing you on Sunday. And we'll both be back with you in 2 weeks' time. Take care, folks. Bye.
And we look forward to any questions. Any questions? Let us know.
Questions. Okay, bye.
Bye, everybody.